Welcome back, Amityville Part 3. What would make a young family leave their dream home after they just moved in after 28 days? Let's dive in. Hoax or horror, Amityville. Okay, we just went through in our last video, the Amityville horror, the haunting of 1112 Ocean Avenue. They ran for their lives in the middle of the night. Why? Why would you do this? What? I can't imagine any reason why you would do this with young kids they left in their pajamas. But let's dive in with Laura DIDIO. Laura DIDIO was 19 years old. She was working for Channel 5 News. She wasn't even an investigative reporter. She was like an assistant to the investigative reporter. And she was into parapsychology. So she was studying, and all of a sudden this story comes up. Young family runs for their lives in the middle of the night at the very same murder house of the DEFEO family. So she's already been studying supernatural. She's into it, parapsychology, this is her jam. She reaches out to the DEFEOs, and she reached out probably before anyone. She reached out within a week of them fleeing the house. She tracked them down through George's work, found them at the mother's house, got in touch and said, this is who I am and I really want to meet. Would you be willing to meet with me? And they said yes. So she goes, and she's impressed by them. She does not think they're lying. She likes the kids. The mother doesn't seem like someone that would hide if they were lying. And they agree that they're gonna have a meeting and go into the house and just check it out. So she gets parapsychologists, well, like the ghost hunters, the most famous ghost hunters in America. It was Ed and Lorraine Warren, and he was a demonologist and she was a clairvoyant, and so they were like the power ghost hunting couple. So they're like, yeah, we'll come, like right on, like let's do this, we're gonna check out what's going on. So a small Channel 5 film crew and the Warrens meet at 1112 Ocean Avenue. George meets them at the door, gives them the key, and says, I will never go back into that house. Have a nice time. Let me know how it goes. So this is their opening to the house. They have their evening there, and there's this staircase, and the staircase keeps coming up in all the stories. Weird feelings. People get weird feelings on this staircase. So when they got there, Elaine was going up the staircase, and she just kind of lost her breath. Like she knew immediately something weird was in the house. And what's his name? Ed felt the same way. Like something's going on in this house. So a few things happened to them. And that night at 10 o'clock, Channel 5 News, they just did a little snippet. Like a little snippet at the Amityville Horror House. People went crazy. Now they've got this big scoop. So they decide to get into what I'm going to call the psychic party. So Laura DIDIO, she already has the Warrens. The Warrens have their team of 7. There's a larger camera crew team for Channel 5 News. And then there's a medium, a famous medium from somewhere in the world, and a gentleman, what was his name? Hans Holder. Now, the Warrens were the US version of the top ghost hunters. Hans Holder was the ghost hunter of the world. So he kind of realizes how big this is going to be. So Hans Holder also comes. So we've got a plethora of people, 20 people around in total, and they descend on the house, and they're going to spend the night there. So it's like a party vibe. No one is denying this. This is definitely, it's crazy. When they first get there, they all assemble and they have a seance, and nothing happens. That sucks for kind of everybody, right? So they agree, okay, well, let's just back it up, probably the ghosts are a little overwhelmed. We just stampeded their house. Let's set up all the cameras, take some photos, go up and down, check everything out. So Elaine, with some of the cameramen, goes up the stairs, and Ed goes down into the basement. Now, Elaine didn't know that Ed left. So Elaine is going up the stairs, and she also is feels something as she's going to the top of those stairs. She just gets an energy, and she's takes her breath away like it did the first time. And she's just knows something is wrong. Meanwhile, Ed is down in the basement. As soon as he gets into the basement, he gets serious, he gets his holy water and he gets his crucifix, and he's I don't know what he said, but something along the lines of, come out, you demon, come out, he was commanding it to come out, and it did, right away. Like the second he did that, he was blown away. He said it felt like someone was sitting on him, but he was standing up. So it was like this incredible pressure on him, but he's standing. So he's like, he goes up the stairs. Elaine doesn't remember saying this exactly, but they went into that sewing room and she looked at the cameraman. He remembers and she kind of remembers, and she said, I hope I'm never this close to evil again. What is even going on right now? So I forgot to mention, two of this team, this psychic party, they were parapsychologists from Duke University, and they brought the latest ghost hunting technology of the time, which was an infrared camera. So everybody was excited about this. So they had cameras set up all over the house, and the infrared camera, they took photos of everything all over the house. And there was a famous photo, I think they called it like Ghost Boy. So there's like a Ghost Boy photo that's found later. We're going to get right back to it. So, so everyone's taking photos. Well, when they went up the stairs, when the camera crew went up the stairs, one of the camera guys, now something that they wanted said about these two camera guys, they were combat cameramen. They had been deployed, well, maybe not deployed, but they had been in combat zones. They had done riots. So they were like big, strong, burly men, not scared, like, come on, some ghosts, like, let's do this. And from every interview I've watched, whether you believe anything or not, everybody in that house, the one thing they are positive of, that they were all in disbelief with what happened to the camera guy. So he clutched his heart when he got to the top of the stairs and he went to his knees. And he was really freaked out, and he said that he had never experienced anything like that in his life, and that he had no heart problems before that. Also, I know, it's just crazy. They say Lorraine Warren said that every man in that house that night died of heart issues. How can that be possible? I don't believe that. I don't believe that every one of them. And also, a lot of people die of heart problems, so I don't really know. But everybody agrees that that freaked everyone out. So they do their little psychic party all night, and a couple of people, I guess, spend the night, and everyone else packed up at 5:30 and left, and they woke up and no one was there. Can you imagine? Like, really? You spend the night at the murder house? Anyway, so that was that. So the world is mental now. Everyone's going crazy. People like nuns are coming from Ireland, businessmen from Shanghai, like tourists from all over the world are like ascending on this poor little Amityville town. I mean, they're holding Virgils, they're praying outside of the house. It's like this big historic show. And then it's time to talk about Jay Anson. So Jay Anson, he was 52 years old, and he was a documentary writer. So he had nothing to do with the supernatural. He wasn't interested in it. He didn't have nothing to do with it. But he happened to be working on The Exorcist, the making of The Exorcist, so behind the scenes. And you know, that's pretty fun, right? And he gets chummy with the priest, who's like the occult specialist of the film, and they decide that they're going to write a book together called Psychology of the Devil. And right away, a publisher picks it up. Never happens. The book never happens. But not long after, that same guy who was going to publish it in the company, the guy in charge of it, gets this story about this Long Island couple flees the house in the middle of the night after 28 days, and it's the same DEFEO murder house. So he gives Jay a call and explains it, and Jay says, oh, great. Well, if you get the priest to corroborate it, I'll do it. And he's like, I'll never hear back from them again, because the priest is never going to corroborate it. It's like, not like, have a nice life. The priest corroborates it. So Jay Anson's like, okay, I guess that's enough for me. I'm gonna write it. Like, why not? So he dives in and he meets Kathy and George, and they have 20 tapes documenting their experience in those 28 days. So he has that. He interviews some relatives. He interviews some of the Suffolk police, like detectives, police officers, whoever was willing, and he writes this book. It was the biggest selling book to date. It was not only a US seller, it was a world seller. Everybody's obsessed with this story in this house, with the murders and then the haunting and then the leaving after 28 days. People went wild. So, of course, a movie deal was coming. So then a movie deal starts. This is where it all gets absolutely mental. Let's talk about the curse. So, Anson, as he's writing the book, has a heart attack. Right in the middle of writing the book. Swears till the day he died had nothing to do with it. Like, don't be ridiculous. It had nothing to do with it. All right, Jay. Okay, you did later die of a heart attack. That's awful. But he had a great life. It's okay. He gives the book. So he has the manuscript, right? He gives the manuscript. Let's go into the curse. To one friend has the manuscript, and their car bursts into flames. No reason why. They're fine. Don't worry. They're fine. And the manuscript is found in the car, which is burned to a crisp. Fine. Untouched. Nothing wrong with the manuscript. Then he hands it to a friend and his son, and they have it in the trunk. I don't know what they're doing with it. They're driving around. Like, I don't know what they're doing with it. They get into a car crash, go into a ravine. The car goes underwater. Luckily, they get out. They survive. The manuscript, untouched, unharmed, not even wet. Okay? Number 3. This is a bad one. He gives the manuscript to a friend of his to read. She reads a couple chapters. She goes to bed. Her house bursts into flames. I don't know why. She dies. What do you think happened to the manuscript? It was found unharmed. Not a char on it. Nothing. Everybody loves to say whether the Lutzes were lying or not. Everybody has speculations on the murders of the DeFeo family and what really went down that night. Danny, who was Kathy's eldest son, he did a documentary, or someone did a documentary about him called My Amityville Horror. I mean, I feel for this guy. Like, you just see it in his eyes. He's like very traumatized, but he is convinced that that house was possessed and that he and George were both possessed. Okay, like, oh my God. And he said it didn't stop at that house. It followed him for years. He said, this is terrible. He said his parents went on, I think he was 10, 11, 12, so maybe 13, maybe less, maybe 11. His parents went on a world book tour promotion and checked him into like the Catholic school for disturbed children. Well, they definitely thought he was disturbed. I can't speak, I'm stroking out. Definitely thought he was disturbed because the priests were beating the out of him during exorcisms. So they were exorcising him, not once, not twice. They were holding many exorcisms on him and beating him up during exorcism. So he thinks that the ghost, the demon, whoever's in that house gets triggered by aggression because George supposedly was really aggressive and Danny was aggressive and angry even though he was a kid. You know, he had a stepfather, whatever the issues are. Then I watched, all of these will be linked, by the way, if you want to check them out, like it's crazy. Butch DeFeo, there was a documentary about him, a 3-part, which is crazy town, crazy. Like, oh my gosh, I can't keep track of who said what when, how many mob ties they had, who's tied to what drug, when it was delivered, cars, police, it's mental. So I'm not even going to get into it, it's just going to get us sidetracked. But Butch, he said that was all a hoax. Like, oh, they're lying, it's all a hoax. I knew them, actually, and I used to sell them drugs. So I don't believe that. I think, like, first of all, you weren't there. How do you know if they're lying or not? Secondly, the drug thing, like, I think he was actually, like a little bit crazy because he had done so much, like, hardcore drugs for, like, 4 years, and then he was on heroin for, like, 3 years before the murders. I don't even know if he knows what happened that night. Like, he's changed his story so many times. To this day, though, just an interesting fact, he swears that Dawn did it. And by did it, because the story changes, that she killed the children. It was like debatable who killed the parents. Like definitely it sounds like he killed the dad, and then she like takes the gun and kills the mom, and then he catches his breath, and then she kills all the kids, and then he kills her. And apparently in this documentary it proves that there was gunpowder on her nightgown, which could only mean you shot a rifle or a gun of some kind, and that she died 4 hours after. So I don't know what to say about that, but it seems pretty fishy to me. Okay, just when you thought things couldn't get crazier, they are getting crazier. So when George and Kathy left the house, they were stunned, the world is stunned, everybody's stunned, and because Butch DeFeo's lawyer, Mr. Weber, he claimed that Butch was possessed by demons, so like insane and therefore not responsible for the murders. And so the DeFeos, or Kathy and George, they wanted to meet with the lawyer and just say, so what's going on with this like demon possession? Because like stuff happened to us in the house, and they kind of wanted to talk it through. He's like, yeah, absolutely, come over. They have dinner, they have several bottles of wine, and apparently, and this really looks bad for Kathy and George, apparently they made up the whole story together. They just sat and kept drinking wine and like embellish. And he's like, you're gonna get a book deal, and then you're gonna get a movie deal, and then you're gonna get millions of dollars. It's gonna be showering down like a car salesman. I don't know. But the sad thing is it was on tape. So George and Kathy feel a little embarrassed the next day, and they don't recount it. They're just cut ties with him, like done, like done. They went and did their thing. So either they ditched him because they knew that he was going to take half the money, or they were embarrassed that he wanted to embellish and they were drinking wine and going along with it. But public record says that he sued them, and then they countersued, and then he sued them again, and then they sued. So it was like back and forth sue fest, because after they cut ties with him, all of the money started pouring in, like ting, 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 like money grab. It was like a money grab for everybody. It was absolutely mental. Ultimately, with all of the he said, she said, I believe you, you don't believe me, everyone was making money. So even the people that were saying that it's not true, they were making money. So I'm skeptical of the people saying it's not true, because they were also making their money. So we're either going to believe that something happened in that house, or we're not. To me, the most plausible possibility is that there was a demon living in the house, and he was triggered by aggression, because Mr. DeFeo, Senior DeFeo, George Lutz, and Danny were all very aggressive, angry, rageful men. And if that can get like stirred up, and also it was supposedly on, we talked about this on Indian Burial Ground, so I think, you know, maybe there was something in that house and it was getting triggered. I don't know. I have a hard time believing. They said that the Lutzes were in financial, like bad financially, but why would they move their whole family to this beautiful house? They hadn't even paid a mortgage yet. Are you just gonna pick up and move everybody to this house and then run your kids out in the middle of the night so you can have a book tour, which nothing had been this successful? That's a big gamble. Plus you're messing with your kids, you're messing with your, I don't know. They like took off and went to San Diego after that, and it didn't seem to me, I don't know if they wanted the limelight. I just have a hard time believing that they went that far to make it all up. I personally believe something happened in the house. I don't know. But I would like to know, what do you think? Horror or hoax? Let me know in the comments. Let me know, horror or hoax? And then if anybody is willing to watch The Exorcist again in the dark, I would also like to know that in the comments. Like, let me know how that is for you. I want to know if it still holds up, and I'm going to do it too. Until the next time, stay safe, lock your doors. Can't wait to talk to you about our next adventure. Have a good one. Bye-bye.